Hi there. After my family and I started homeschooling, not long after, I decided to plan a trip to Washington, D.C. and the surrounding area. And we went with another family, and my kids had a blast. We visited all over D.C. I ran them ragged, but we had such a great time. And it's a trip that I really want other homeschool families to be able to enjoy. So I've organized a trip from April 12th to April 18th of 2026 just for homeschool families. And we will be seeing some amazing sites. We'll go to Ford's Theater, where the Lincoln assassination took place. We'll go to the Spy Museum. We're going to see, of course, all the memorials. We will see some government buildings. Also, Mount Vernon is one of my favorite places where George Washington made his home. And the National Zoo, the Museum of the Bible, the Smithsonian, and also Arlington Cemetery. So please join me. This is one of the best things you can do as an American homeschool family. But even if you're coming from abroad, you're more than welcome. I hope to see you there.
The Sam Sorbo Show is brought to you in partnership by the Herzog Foundation.
Hi there. A former military intelligence officer and a seasoned academic, he's become a leading critic of ideological trends in higher education. And his latest book exposes what he calls one of academia's most dangerous deceptions. You don't want to miss this. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. Here we go.
Sam Sorbo,
Sam, welcome back to the program.
I'm glad we welcome Sam Sorbo.
It's great to have you here.
All right, so joining me today is Dr. Stanley K. Ridgley. He's the author of DEI Exposed, and he's a clinical full professor of strategic management at Drexel University. And today we're digging into a major shift in universities across the country who are starting to retreat from DEI initiatives in response to Trump's proposed federal funding freeze. But are these changes real? That's what we're going to get into. Are they just temporary? Which is what I suspect. Oh, I gave it away. And if the White House flips, will the DEI just be coming right back in? So joining me right now is Dr. Stanley K. Ridgley. Welcome to the program.
Thanks so much, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here. You've got an erudite show and an audience.
Ooh, erudite, that's a big word.
I'm delighted to talk with you about DEI and its unfortunate entry into the campuses and fortunate demise, as we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and fortunate demise. I love that. Well, you wrote the book on it, right? Division, what is it? Division something and inequality is what it really stands for.
Well, I'm a big fan of acronyms and everything else, and I find it very easy to criticize the DEI. Some people call it DIE, a die. Yeah. And it's a scourge on our campuses, and I think that a large part of the support, the misguided support for DEI, comes from people who believe incorrectly that it stands for or really represents the idea that we're going to uplift underrepresented minorities, that we're going to create a level playing field, that we're going to give everyone a fair shot at the brass ring. It's just teaching about race. It's just teaching about slavery and all of this. The people who are against this relatively benign effort certainly have something wrong with them, and we can persecute them and we can castigate them with impunity. But we find that DEI is much more than what I just described. People have a misconception of it, and I'd like to clarify that and clear that up today.
Yeah, well, I hope you will. I understand it's related to critical race theory, or CRT. I'd like to know how. We'll start with definitions. DEI is supposedly standing for diversity, equity, and inclusion. When you hear the word equity, think socialism, because it's not equality. And so why don't you dive into all of the specifics on all of that for us?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the first letter, diversity. Diversity has really no inherent value. It's not inherently good. It's not inherently bad. It's simply a byproduct of other things that we do to try to accomplish certain goals. It's no more worthy or good than, say, uniformity. And so I think in that respect, the idea that this has kind of a halo on it, and all you have to do is mention diversity, and it opens all kinds of doors for you as being a person concerned with social justice. You are exactly right with regard to equity. It sounds an awful lot like equality when it's really not. Equality means we all get a shot. Roughly speaking, at the brass ring, we can all come up to the start line. We can remove as many artificial obstacles as we possibly can. And when the start gun goes off, we're going to run that race and finish where our effort and our talents can take us. Equity, on the other hand, means that everyone's going to finish together at the finish line. And we're going to take measures to ensure that everyone finishes at that finish line. And if this means holding some people, strivers, folks that are talented, that are smart, that are hardworking, hold them back so that everyone can finish together, that's what that means. And I think that you've hit the nail on the head when you say it's socialism. Of course it is. That's the whole idea behind. So in fact, Karl Marx, I think it was 1875, a critique of the Goethe program, said, from each according to his ability to each according to his need, which was really the first expression of this idea of equity, that everyone's going to finish at that finish line at the same time. As far as inclusion, I think that's kind of absurd because we're not a country club here at the university. We're not a senior living facility. We're not a middle school after school club. You want to feel included? Of course not. We're here to study. We're here to test our mettle against what the university can challenge us with. And if you come out a better person, then all the better. But the idea of inclusion, this is not a birthday party, if you know
Well,
what I
let
mean.
me ask you something.
Yeah.
Did people get turned down to come to the university?
Well, they certainly do. The only place
They're not really about inclusion, are they?
No, they're not. The university tells people they're excluded and don't belong all the time. But apparently the only people who can do that are the folks over in the enrollment office and do that with impunity. Everyone else wants
The exclusion office.
the inclusion office. Once you're on the campus, apparently you can't talk about the idea. Well, maybe the idea that giving everyone the same grade is probably in the works right now with regard to DEI, because that would guarantee that everyone finishes at the finish line.
They stopped giving grades.
Some places have,
in lower schools, lower as in, between higher and elementary, they stopped giving grades. They said, grades are exclusionary and they're racist and whatever. How is
manifestation of white supremacy, of course, right?
How is DEI related to CRT?
Well, DEI is the action element or the implementation phase of critical race theory. You have a theory that says, well, there are two groups of people. Basically, it's a binary, it's a primitive Manichaean manifestation in the sense that there are villains and there are victims. There are oppressors and oppressed. There are exploiters and exploited. There are good and evil people. And we're going to divide people into these two categories based on skin color. And if you are a villain, you are, by definition, you are racist. And moreover, all of this exists under a reign or an imprimatur of a white racist society where white supremacy culture dominates. That's so oppressive. And this is the essence of CRT, which the genesis of CRT, of course, back in the late 80s, early 90s on up into now, which is really sophisticated and manifest on our college campuses. DEI is the implementation phase of critical race theory. Critical race theory is, of course, it's a theory. DEI is a practice. And the practice consists of opening the gates to the university to a group of mediocrities who have no discernible skill set, except to label people according to this doctrine of good and evil, and to then train people in mandatory sessions on the campus, in seminars and racial caucuses, to accuse people on the campus of their complicity in a white racist society. This is absurd. The manifest absurdity of this, it's a fake discipline, it's a fake academic discipline on the campuses, and yet the university gave its stamp of approval back in 2021 when universities were feeling the pressure of the BLM riots and did not want that type of unrest to come to the campuses. And so we found that many of the grifters who were running private, I should say, peanut grifts, short cons off campus, were invited onto the campus to man a bureaucracy that was lavishly compensated to the tune of millions of dollars. The DEI industry is a $10 billion a year industry. And
You're talking about the extra administrators that they've decided positions of what are some of the positions that we're talking about?
Well, we're talking about chief diversity officers.
Chief diversity officer. Perfect.
We're talking about, and the various acolytes they have developed in this bureaucracy that have propagated throughout university. I think at University of George Mason University has 7.4 diversity people to every 100 tenured faculty.
7.4% of their administration is diversity related.
No, the actual numbers of people, the 7.4 administrators to every 100 tenured faculty.
Okay.
The University of Michigan had over 1,000 DEI people, both full and part-time people, and the chief diversity officer, her name is Tabia Chavus-Sellers, is still receiving $431,000.
It's nice money it's a nice job if you can get it.
I should say she replaced her husband, who was receiving $431,000 a year when she replaced him in 2022. So there's nepotism involved as well.
That's not very diverse of them.
No,
Are there diversity officers in historical Black colleges, for instance? Thanks for tuning into the Sam Sorbo Show. You know, we are in a battle for our very nation, a nation that was founded on Christian principles and on the Bible. The 10 Commandments is the basis for our rule of law. But these days, when you go talk to people on the street, you'll find that most of them don't even know what rule of law means. And that's why I'm so proud to have Herzog Foundation as a sponsor of my show. I also love what they do because they seek for the benefit of Christian education throughout the nation. So Herzog Foundation is a wonderful partner for us here at the Sam Sorbo Show. Thanks for watching. Are there diversity officers in historical Black colleges, for instance?
Well, I think they are. I can't name any right now, but yes, there are, because a lot of people don't realize that.
Are they including white people now?
Well, historically, Black universities and colleges, some of them have a majority white population, and a lot of people don't even realize this. But this is kind of the nesting place of CRT in our Black colleges, especially Howard University. It's kind of a repository, it's almost like the Love Boat of failed academics, where you have people like Nicole Hannah Jones, the 1619 Project. You have Ta-Nehisi Coates, who is now on the faculty of English department there. You have Ibram Kendi, who failed at American, who failed at Boston University, who was basically bumped out of his position at his Center for the Study of Racial Equity. And he is now landed at Howard University, the last stop for failing diversity academics. And I mean this seriously. This is where they go. Because this is more and more people realize that this is a fake academic discipline. I've read their journals. I should tell you, by the way, I am a member of the National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education. I think it's important to understand this type of fraud. I'll say it again: the National Association of Chief Diversity Officers in Higher Education. I joined.
Okay? You have to clarify for me, because
Sure.
I think you're making a joke. Because
No.
my head's playing the Love Boat theme song right now.
Yeah.
There's actually that is a group that actually exists, and you are actually a part of it.
Yes, I know parody sometimes sounds, reality sometimes sounds like a parody. No, I am a member of the organization called the National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education, NADOHE. I'm supposing that, and I have joined that group so I could do firsthand research on the project. If you're going to write about DEI, you have to understand the actual topic.
So you joined, but did they have to accept you, or is it because they're so inclusive anybody can join?
With approximately a $400 member fee, they certainly did accept me.
There you go.
That cleared, and I don't think that they are that they were going to investigate. They're probably going to investigate me now.
Did you have to take any courses?
Oh, no, 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 no. It's a professional organization. I'm sorry. That may be a joke. It's a professional organization of folks who are basically on the grift. When I say grift, I'm talking about they're running a con on the
Yeah, you've
college
called it a
campus.
con. Yeah.
Yes, it's the biggest con of the century that almost toppled higher education.
Wait, 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 wait. There's pharma. We still haven't figured out the whole pharma thing yet.
People always challenge me on that. And they say, wait, but COVID was the biggest. That was the biggest con. Well, COVID came and went, and I like to think it's over, but this is still hanging on. And we have people like the University of Virginia making $500,000 in salary and benefits as the chief diversity officer, and another guy who works with him making more than $500,000 in salary and benefits. Those people are going to hang on with dear life for their study cures.
But also, we should talk about this idea. Look, pharma there are drugs that do bad things to you and that injure your health despite the claims to the contrary or whatever, right? And we're still spelunking, we're still cave diving to try to figure this all out, right? And get it all sorted out. But DEI, right on its face, is a mind game and distorting young people's minds to this degree with such lies so that they can no longer perceive truth is really putting them in a prison. It's sentencing them to jail time in their own minds. That's tragic, right?
Yes, it is. And I think that what we find on the campuses, that a lot of parents and students come into the university thinking, oh, this is a marketplace of ideas, where if I have a good argument, then I'll win, and the other guy is going to leave the field with his tail between his legs. Well, that's not the university. That's not that university doesn't exist anymore. What we have is a crucible of indoctrination, both in the classroom, but mainly outside the classroom, run by bureaucrats who are teaching students that they are part of a white racist, white supremacist system in America, that America is a racist country, that we are riven with white supremacy culture, and that you are complicit in this if you are a white student, and you have really no choice in the matter. And if you are a non-white student, then you are a victim of this culture.
Right.
And you must understand you are a victim and you should behave like you're a victim. And this is the con game. I talk about the con game. This is the con game that's being perpetuated and propagated on America's college campuses. There are villains and there are victims. And psychologists call this the game of virtuous victimhood. It actually has a name.
Yeah, you've called it like cult-like, right?
Yes, it is. They use a lot of cult techniques to basically pressure students to accept their doctrine, this ideology, and that you must confess. You have to confess in this, your complicity. There's even a professor at Arizona State University, I'll tell you her name, Lisa Spanierman. She is a counseling psychologist. She's a very important dean at Arizona State University, where she actually propagates the idea that you should and can create fake guilt in white male students in your classes.
Did you just say fake guilt?
Yes. And I'll tell you why I say fake guilt, in the sense that most anyone can feel or will feel guilt over most anything if they are provided the right intellectual stimulus.
Does she say fake guilt, or is that what you're saying?
No. She says guilt. She's trying to stimulate guilt.
Right. So it's sort of like when a psychiatrist tells you that you were abused as a child and stimulates those memories of abuse or what have you, which has, I'm not discounting all of the stories, but many of them have been debunked. Right. And so you're saying that this person says everybody has guilt. And so you need to go and cultivate that particular brainwave.
Well, what she says in her article, and I have shared her article and written a column on her article, where she actually says that you can create guilt where there is no guilt, and there's no reason for guilt, by providing people the right stimulus. And you can do this in a class. And she says that
I need to know that, because I need to use that on my husband.
my
children. I have to use it on my children.
Yes, the right stimulus can generate this guilt. It's fake guilt because there's really no connection at all between what the person in your class and the events. And this provides, she says, here's the important conclusion: white male students are more likely to participate in social justice work if they are carrying this fake guilt or this generated guilt. And that's the purpose, to get people to feel this fake guilt so that they will indeed join with you in this social justice crusade.
This is abuse. This is like Stockholm syndrome. I mean, this is just they're really manipulating these young people to believe certain things that aren't true. I mean, but hey, if you can manipulate somebody to believe that they owe you money, which is basically, that's what this is, right? Because eventually they're talking reparations. So you're a white kid, you never had slaves. Your parents, look, my husband, okay, he's Norwegian. He's 100% Norwegian. His parents immigrated. So there was no slavery there. I mean, the Norwegians probably, they were Vikings. They probably raped and pillaged at one time in his long sordid, ancestry. But for him, to say to him, well, you're a white guy, therefore you owe reparations. To whom? To whom? Because the blacks held slaves as much as the whites did, if not more, if you want to go worldwide, and still do.
Yeah, slavery was certainly not created by the United States, certainly not created by Britain for that matter.
Well, and it's not abolished either.
No, it's not. It's still in practice, especially in North Africa and some parts of sub-Saharan Africa right now.
But they're not over there preaching DEI, CRT, and anti-slavery.
Well, exactly. And
or anti-racism, I should say, anti-racism, because that's the other one, right? Can we loop that in somehow?
Well, yes, we can, because Ibram Kendi is the person who really, Ibram Kendi's name is Hank Rogers, really. He was at Temple University when I was there getting my international MBA. He was across campus. He's not well known or anything like that at the time, early 2000s. And he has coined this term, he's utilized the term and leveraged it in a best-selling book called How to Be an Anti-Racist. And he has used this binary of that I've talked about, villains and victims. There, you can be a racist or an anti-racist, and there's no other category in which you can fit. And you are either a racist or you have confessed your racism and you're now an anti-racist and you're working actively for a better world. And there's no in between. You can't reside in any kind of gray area. That's Manichaeism. And that is and this was discredited. It's a very primitive ideology of light and dark and good and evil. And I think St. Augustine was a Manichaean at one point until he realized it was really bull and became the saint that he was. And the fact is that Ibram Kendi and his anti-racism has really been a scourge on this nation, this country. And he rightly saw his business proposition, his business project at Boston University collapse when people realized he was really running a scam. He's running a grift. Ibram Kendi is a grifter. It's like a fortune teller. You mentioned, you fool someone to give you them money, to give you money. Well, that's what a fortune teller does. You pay a fortune teller to tell you.
What? You don't believe in fortune telling?
No, I didn't say I didn't believe in it. I'm telling you it's a grift. And it may or may not be true. Who knows? Who can say? These days, what isn't true? What isn't art? So a fortune teller is an artist of sorts, a grifter who telling a really wonderful tale to get you to believe in something that they're telling you and then take your money. And that's exactly what DEI is.
Stay ahead of the storm with IQ Weather, a premium all-video homeschool course that makes learning science exciting and engaging. This vivid, entertaining program incorporates physics, chemistry, geography, geology, astronomy, and oceanography, giving your kids a well-rounded education in the fascinating world of weather. Designed to captivate young minds, IQ Weather makes complex concepts easy to understand and fun to explore. Visit iqweather.com and use code SAM to get 15% off your order. Give your kids a science education they'll love and stay prepared for anything. Start your IQ Weather journey today. Hey there, if you're enjoying today's episode, take a moment, leave me a 5-star review, please. This is the way that people will be able to discover these conversations. And by the way, I will be reading some of these reviews on air. So whether yours is poignant or humorous or simply thoughtful, take a moment, leave me the review, and maybe yours will be the one that is chosen to read on air and share with the world. Thanks so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. I appreciate you.
So a fortune teller is an artist of sorts, a grifter who telling a really wonderful tale to get you to believe in something that they're telling you and then take your money. And that's exactly what DEI is.
Incidentally, that's what modern art is.
Yes. And people pay an awful lot of money for this. Hunter Biden's got some modern art for sale, I understand. And so if you can fool someone, that's what a grift is all about. There's been a lot of movies made on this sort of thing. It's like a protection racket too, combined with a grift. I said this in a recent article. If you look at Jesse Jackson.
Hold on.
Yep,
Sorry,
sure.
you mentioned protection racket.
Yeah.
So just describe for us briefly how it's a protection racket. I think I understand, but I think it would be clever to describe it for the audience.
Well, sure. I give you Jesse Jackson, who pioneered the effort in the realm of racial politics in the 80s and 90s. He would show up with his Operation Push at a business and say, nice business you've got here. Be a shame if a bunch of demonstrators came outside and began demonstrating, showing that you're a racist organization. But
did you say push?
I'm sorry.
Did you say push?
His operation was called Push. People United to Save Humanity.
Yeah. Right. Also Rainbow something, right?
Rainbow Coalition. Yes.
Yeah.
So he's had a lot of shell companies that he'd operated, and people will come outside your business and demonstrate, but we can ensure that won't happen if with a healthy donation. In the same way, and after 2020, 2021, with all the BLM riots in the streets, destroying more than $2 billion worth of small businesses, DEI grifters said, nice university you've got there.
Yes.
Be a shame if something happened to it. Be a shame. And why don't you?
And what they do is they say there will be demonstrations, but if you posture and donate in a certain manner, we can steer the demonstrations away. They're going to be there, but they won't touch you if you purchase this protection.
You're purchasing protection. That's the scam. That's the grift. That's the big con. And they, not only did they win this kind of absolution, because universities are always ready to be guilty of something. University presidents, I was very disappointed in my own school when the university president basically went supine. You should come on to the campus, and I protested what was going on. I wrote a lot of memos on that. I'm on the faculty senate here at my own university, and I've been very outspoken about this sort of thing. And it's only been recently that people are kind of looking over their shoulder saying, maybe we're on the wrong side of this issue. Maybe we need to eliminate our DEI office, which has happened here. Maybe we need to let some people go who shouldn't have been here, maybe we need to change some of the things that we're teaching people in these out of classroom seminars. And that's happened. And that's the positive experience I've seen from the Trump administration's DOE.
So I'm sorry, what college, what university?
Drexel University.
Drexel. Okay.
In Philadelphia.
Right. And so you're seeing a reversal slowly.
Yes.
Have people been fired?
Slow. I'm sorry.
Have people been fired?
People are no longer here. People are no longer here. Those are personnel matters. And suddenly you can't find them on the website anymore. Suddenly new people have new titles. Suddenly things are not being discussed. They used to be discussed freely. Not only discussed, used to be bragged about, boasted about, and suddenly
what things? Let's get specific.
DEI is
but I've heard that they're rebranding. They're basically going underground. They're just rebranding it, calling it something else. In fact, I've seen videos of them saying, we're just going to not call it DEI. We're still going to do it. We're not. So talk to me about that.
Well, I think it's James O'Keefe's organization, Inaccuracy in Media, has basically outed the folks at the University of North Carolina, several campuses, University of Florida, several campuses are saying, we're just, as you say, rebranding. We're going underground. We're going to do the same work under a different name. The University of Virginia has been incredibly deceptive about this. They rebranded the names of the offices and the titles of the people. And there was an expose recently showing side by side the old website with the new website. And they're identical except for the titles and the names of the programs. This is why James Ryan, the president of UVA, just resigned, because he was overseeing all of this DEI, declared that DEI was being dismantled at the University of Virginia. And it turns out that it was not being dismantled, and he resigned ignominiously. And I am just so disgusted with the people who are gathering around, rallying around Jim Ryan, President Ryan. Oh, he's a beacon of enlightenment for all of us. He did good work. He put his heart in the right. No, get out of here, President Ryan. You were a lout and a liar and a deceiver. Get out. You said you were dismantling DEI and you weren't.
Right. So this is the problem: is people are ideologues, and I think because of the way that our schools have now trained us to think, we can only think the way that we were trained to think. We were not trained how to use our brains. We were trained what to think. And so we have worn pathways to the thoughts that were implemented, not implemented, but inserted into our brains. And
Right.
so the DEI people, they believe the DEI. It's you can't unseat it because it didn't get there by logic and conclusion, but thought and reasoning. It got there because it was implanted. And and that's the difference between just an ideologue and somebody who actually believes, fervently what they believe. Is the person who believes what they believe will be able to justify it and defend it. And if you come at them with a different belief, they're not budged because they know why they believe what they believe. And if they do get budged, it's because something that you said resonated and they have the capacity to reflect on it and apply it and redress the way that they were thinking about the other thing, right? But these people, they just know what they know. And that's it. It's very shallow, but it's firm. And so when you say, okay, we have to get rid of DEI, their answer is, well, we'll just rebrand it.
Right.
They don't know what I know. I know that DEI is super beneficial. They can't explain why it's beneficial. They can't explain what it's supposed to accomplish that is actually good, except maybe socialism or whatever. They've got the pablum. They've got the pat answers. So Trump is coming along and saying, I'm going to stop funding unless you guys stop doing this. Their answer is, we'll just rebrand it. Shh, don't tell anybody. And so where does that leave us? Because this is I think we're in a bigger mess than just DEI. Let me put it that way. Go ahead.
Well, you have to start somewhere. And I think DEI is a very good high profile target right now. We need to expunge these people from the university. I think the university, you'll see this if you watch. And anytime someone is caught up on one of these things, the solution for the university bureaucracy is to say, well, this person's being retrained. This person's been retrained, as if the only problem on the university campuses for wrongdoing is, well, the person wasn't sufficiently trained. And now the anti-Semitism, well, we're going to train this person not to be anti-Semitic.
I'm hearing re-educated.
Right.
And I'm going, wow, that's a leftist tactic if I ever heard one.
Yes, it is. We have to get rid of these people. That's the solution, because personnel is policy. And the people who are really spouting this stuff are really mediocrities. There's really nothing. They're very shallow.
But then here's the thing, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to get down to brass tacks. You can get rid of the DEI people, but you have to get rid of the people who hired the DEI people.
That's absolutely correct. We need to identify these people. We need to bring them out. I'm firmly on board with you on that, because we have the universities put into a really bad position. Oh, we fired those people. Well, who hired those people to begin with? Where is your judgment? Why aren't you under the spotlight? Rarely do we get a chance to see them under the spotlight. We saw that with the 3 Ivy League professors being questioned by Elise Stefanik in Congress. And it was so sweet. It was so
the rot goes all the way to the top.
Exactly. And you find that, the poster girl for this was Claudine Gay, completely unqualified to be the president of any college, given her thin resume.
It's weird because we grew up in a society that told us competition is healthy and the cream rises to the top. And if you work hard and you whatever, then if you're the real deal, you will get there. Basically, like that was the unspoken promise. You work hard, you'll get there. And then this gal rises to that seat specifically because of the color of her skin.
Yeah.
She cheated.
Yes.
And unfortunately, now the lesson is cheat. Because everybody else does.
There's something about DEI that really attracts cheaters because a lot of DEI
'Cause it's
officers,
a lie.
the
And we
one
all know that it's a lie.
yeah, the one at Harvard, I think her name is Sherry Charlesworth. She's been was guilty of plagiarism of her dissertation, along with her husband, who was the DEI officer at some Big Ten school. And Carol Swain, who was a wonderful woman, who was an academic at
Yeah.
actually she was a colleague of mine at Duke when I was a graduate student. And
Carol went to Duke?
yeah, well, yes, well, she was a visiting scholar. She was also
Oh.
over at UNC Chapel Hill, which is my undergraduate institution.
Gotcha.
She was plagiarized by Claudine Gay.
She went after her. She
Yes,
went
she
after her big time on LinkedIn. I saw on Twitter. She posted. She was
Right.
I mean, and rightly so. She's angry. You took my work and called it yours. It's not yours. It's mine.
Yeah, and there was, well, unfortunately for Carol, Harvard has a lot of legal resources, and it could have gotten really onerous for Carol. So Carol kind of let it drop. She's got a nice little book out about the whole
Yes.
thing, which is absolutely wonderful.
But she
yeah.
did. I
Mhm.
think it was mainly her that affected that change. They did have to let Claudine Gay go. They let her go under very favorable conditions. It
Right.
wasn't because she plagiarized. It was just, she
Okay.
fulfilled her time and now she's moving on. And I think she moved on to another really cushy job.
Well, she's went back to the faculty, and she's still receiving her
Right.
$900,000 a year in salary. She's the highest paid faculty member in the School of Government there, and that was part of the deal I imagine that she made. I'd like to
What
address.
message does that send to the kids who go into her classroom?
Yeah, aren't you the professor who cheated and got away with it? It's amazing, isn't it?
How could she? Okay, so I'm a person in her class, and I totally plagiarize and cheat on my exam. And she says, "It looks like you plagiarized this whole thing. So what? What? Why
Well,
shouldn't I?
exactly. It delegitimizes her completely.
Of
Uh,
course."
but I'm sure that doesn't bother her. She actually received a leadership award from the Black Alumni Association of Harvard at the end of that whole thing. And there's people are just trying to bring another successful Black woman down. That was the mantra. The
Yeah.
facts don't matter. What matters is the narrative.
Are you looking for quality homeschooling resources? Apologia offers top-notch curriculum for all ages. It's designed to inspire a love of learning and a strong foundation in faith. Head over to apologia.com and use code SORBO10 to get 10% off your next purchase. Equip your children with the best education tools and save today at Apologia, the trusted choice for homeschooling families.
But I'm sure that doesn't bother her. She actually received a leadership award from the Black Alumni Association of Harvard at the end of that whole thing. And there's people are just trying to bring another successful Black woman down. That was the mantra. The
Yeah.
facts don't matter. What matters is the narrative. And I should say, let me, if I can get in here, something about Princeton University to show you the big con in action, because people want to, what are some examples? In July 4th, it's been almost exactly a year ago from 5 years ago, actually, from 2020, July 4th, the Princeton staff and faculty wrote an open letter signed by 300 folks saying that there's racism that is rampant here at Princeton. We have a list of demands. As a result, we are complicit in this rampant racism. And Colin Friedersdorf, who is a journalist at The Atlantic, asked the most obvious question that a journalist should ask. He asked all 300 signatories and communicated with them, can you give me an example of this rampant racism here at Princeton over the last 15 years? 300 people, you got 15 years to pick one out. Go. Not one single instance of so-called rampant racism. And if there were rampant racism, you should be able to pull out a handful of examples right off the top of your head. Not one single example. And this is an example of the fraud that's being perpetrated on the college campuses. This went unremarked upon by our journalistic mainstream media.
Well, I blame our schooling, because we've reached a point in our culture where we lack the capacity as a general society to evaluate and discern. And so you're saying, okay, so name me one example. They couldn't.
No?
And then you're like, okay, so this doesn't actually exist. They're like, no, it still exists. And no one else says anything.
Right, right.
I mean, it's the same thing as a man saying that he's a woman. No, I am now a woman, but demonstrably you're not. Well, how can you prove it? We have a Supreme Court justice who refuses to define what a woman is, although she was nominated because she was a Black woman.
Yeah,
that was her qualification.
And the same thing with Kamala Harris, put in that position explicitly for those.
Well, yes, but that was I think that was unnamed. But Biden said, I'm going to nominate a Black woman. Like that was those were his two metrics. Nothing academic, mind you, nothing, IQ or anything. Just we need a Black woman on the Supreme Court. And so apparently she qualified, even though she couldn't define herself as a woman, clearly, because she didn't know what one was.
I think this whole DEI thing is very much Orwellian in the sense that we're going to call,
Yes.
call red, blue.
Yes.
And not only do you have to acknowledge that, you have to agree with that. And
Right.
There's several passages in Orwell's 1984 that demonstrate the kind of coercion that we've seen on the college campuses with regard to what you just mentioned. Leah Thomas is a woman, is going to be a woman. She's going to be a swimmer. She's going to be a women's swimmer. She's going to be admitted into the locker room, and we're going to award her the fruits of a female competition.
So Trump is trying to undo that, and I believe that they have now stripped him of his medal.
Yes.
And I don't know if they've awarded it to Riley Gaines yet, who tied. They only gave it to him because they wanted to give it to him, but she tied. This is what is so outrageous about that, is that he didn't actually win, and they awarded it to him. We're going to run out of time. This is too much fun. You're just a great guest, and you've got a wealth of information. I think we've covered most of it. We're going to show the book again because we want people to go get the book because it's fantastic. You'll learn so much more about all of this stuff. It's called DEI Exposed: How the Biggest Con of the Century almost toppled higher education. I would put to you that it did topple higher education. I think that faith in higher education is at an all-time low, and I don't see it climbing back up anytime soon. But then again, still a lot of parents who are spending their hard-earned second mortgage money on their kids to go to some university for a little piece of paper. No comment there. So I have 3 questions for you that I ask all my guests. First of all, your educational background. Do you use it in your current career? So your educational background, I know you said political science?
Yes, political science, international relations, and Soviet studies.
Oh, Soviet studies. So
Yeah.
you use that every day then?
I do use that.
We're living through those times.
Yes, I actually studied at Lomonosov State University in Moscow, and of course in Paris as well, as part of my MBA.
Говорите по-русски?
Вы говорите по-русски тоже, да?
Немного.
Немного, я тоже. Но ясно.
Okay, now you've exceeded my range.
Я говорю по-русски только медленно и плохо. I speak Russian only slowly and poorly now. When I used to be fluent in the old days, when I was a military intelligence officer and I was a Russian linguist at the time, listening to the главный враг, or the main enemy. I do use it every day, actually.
Правда.
Yes.
Очень приятный.
Спасибо большое. That's отлично.
Okay, so you do. So the second question is advice that you would give your younger self.
Oh, my younger self. Oh my gosh. Youth is wasted on the young. And if I could go back, I would have become a more serious person at a much earlier age. And I would have taken my studies seriously. And I do have the benefit of telling folks today, don't do what I did. That's the only benefit I have of having lived that life, because I don't do what I did. Do what you ought to do, and you will benefit from it immeasurably.
Interesting. So I have to comment on that because I'm in this space right now where I'm realizing that our schools are actually distracting us from who we are meant to be, to the degree that what you just said fits perfectly. In other words, They distracted you with a bunch of nonsense that you weren't interested in. So you didn't take anything that they had to say seriously until whenever it was that you went, oh, wait a minute, this stuff is really interesting. And I wish I was better prepared. So now I'm going to study hard and get it done. And I congratulate you, because I think I have to say most people probably don't reach that point. They think somehow that they just weren't part of whatever was meant to be. And in that respect, our schools have dissuaded a lot of people from achieving their full potential. So thank you for that. I think that's such great. It's interesting because I don't think it's necessarily great advice, but it is a great commentary on what young people might be going through now. And so the advice, I think, should be translated to, just because they're not serious doesn't mean you can't be.
I would say this: don't abandon your ability to think critically, and don't think that the person in front of the classroom has some sort of received truth, and that you are being anointed or brought into the clan of anointed. Okay?
Absolutely.
Criticize that.
Absolutely. That's why I want kids out of school. What is the most urgent cultural shift that you think is needed in the country today to get us back on track?
I think a restoration of the Enlightenment University, where we begin to think, to look at logic, reason, progress, scientific method, and really respect humane values, and get back to the university as Matthew Arnold described it, as the best that has been thought and said and written, that is transmitted to the subsequent generation, who then adds its might of knowledge to that, and expunge this nonsense from the universities of alchemy, astrology, pseudoscience, and DEI.
DEI. And I will say, interesting, because our universities are now filled with children who have gone to school, whereas when they began, they were filled with young people who had never attended school.
Yeah.
And there is the results. So, hey, this was so much fun. I've actually, I took some notes and really enjoyed it. So Dr. Stanley Ridgley, the author of DEI Exposed, how the biggest con of the century almost toppled higher education. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
The pleasure was mine, Sam. Thanks so much.
This is the Sam Sorbo Show. We will see you next time. Remember, speak truth and speak it boldly. Take care.
The views and opinions expressed in the Sam Sorbo Show are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views and positions of the Herzog Foundation.